Today we are talking about one of the hardest parts of hearing the words, "You've got breast cancer." How do you tell the people you love, your husband, your family, your children? And how do you hold everyone else together when you're quietly falling apart inside? In this episode, we're going to talk about the fear, the guilt, the pressure to stay strong, and the gentle ways you can protect your peace while navigating these conversations. Let's do this. Are you scared of leaving your children behind after a breast cancer diagnosis? Are you carrying fear, exhaustion, and that mom guilt while still pushing through every day? If you're tired of holding all of that and want simple ways to support your children and feel held in your journey and move through each day with a little more strength, you're in the right place. Hey, I'm Priska. I'm a mom of two, a woman of faith, and a breast cancer survivor. As a mom, I tried to carry it all alone, but I was never meant to. So I created this space for us. Come sit with me. You don't have to do this alone. So go grab your cup of tea. Yes, that cold cup of tea. I know you've heated it thrice already. And let's get started. Hey friend, before we get started today, I just want to say I'm really proud of you for showing up for yourself today. I know life can feel really heavy sometimes, so the fact that you pressed play, it means more than you know. And if you know someone who's going through a breast cancer diagnosis who might need to hear this episode, please do share it with them. Sometimes a simple message saying, "I thought of you when I had this," can make someone feel a little less alone. And if this podcast has helped you or encouraged you in any way, please leave a written review too. I truly love hearing from you. And your reviews, they help other moms find this podcast. So let's get started. Hey friend, I don't know where you're listening from today. Maybe you're driving, or maybe you're sitting somewhere quiet. Or maybe you've just heard the words breast cancer and everything feels a bit unreal, a bit of a shock. And if you're coming from the last episode, you've just stepped into that moment, the diagnosis. And now you're sitting with a different kind of weight. Not just what is happening to me, but also who do I tell? How do I tell my family? How do I tell my kids? And I want to sit with you in this because this part, it is heavy and it's not talked about enough. For me, the very first person I told was my husband. And if I'm honest, that wasn't even a question. And for you, some of them will not be a question. Some of the people you have to tell will not even be a question. Because I needed him. I needed someone to sit with me in that moment, in that shock. Someone who understood the weight of, what had just happened. And once I told him, we just sat in it. And then almost immediately was, how do I tell my family? Because in my case, my family wasn't nearby. All my family are back home in Kenya. And I had to stop and really, really think. And we made a decision quite early on after getting those news. We chose not to tell our family and not to tell our kids until we knew exactly what we were facing. We needed answers first. We needed to understand the staging, the prognosis, and really what this actually meant. Because this is not just information. It is emotional. It's your life, your mortality. And I know myself too well. I'm someone who protects others, and especially my mom. And I didn't want her worrying when I didn't even know, I didn't even have the answers yet. And it was also during COVID, so there was no travel, there was no movement. So even if I told her, there was no way she could come to me. And that even made it harder. It was more lonely. And And I remember this moment I remember so clearly as well. The very moment after I left the GP office, when he had just confirmed it was cancer, my sister called me. You see, earlier I'd told her I was going for the ultrasound, and she was calling in to check in and see, how did it go? And there I was, sitting with the worst news of my life, and she asks, so how did it go? And I said, well, everything went pretty well. I lied. And I want to stay here for a moment, because if you've done something like that, I want you to hear this. That wasn't weakness. That wasn't lying. That was protection. Because I wasn't ready, I needed time. I needed time to process. I needed time to understand. And I needed time to prepare myself emotionally as well. Because how could I be there for someone else even when I didn't even know what was going on? And this is something I came to learn, and I've learned through this journey, that sometimes you have to stay strong for others, even when you're breaking inside. And that's not weakness, that's not lying, that's love. So if you're sitting right there wondering, do I tell them? Do I wait? What's the right way to do this? I want to gently remind you, there's no one right way. You have to weigh your own circumstances. You have to do what will support you. Only you emotionally. It's only when you're sitting in that moment that you know what this means. Not I who is sitting on the outside, not this hypothetical, this is what you should do. You have to weigh your own circumstances. So think about that, and not what will add you more burden. And I want to walk you through some of the things that really helped me, just as a guide, not as rules, but as a support toolkit. So the first thing you'd probably need to think is, how do I tell people in my circle? Do I tell them in person? Do I tell them by phone? Do I tell them by text? Or do I even put it on social media? This is big, because you've got layers of friends and acquaintances and family. And I want to tell you, there's no better way. Only what feels manageable. Only what you can manage for you in that moment. And you might even choose to have someone else share the news for you. Either your spouse or a close friend. That's okay too. Second thing you might think is, think of when people are all together. Maybe there's, a family dinner. And when you feel as calm as possible. So look when people are together. So you have to tell the story once. Because every time you tell that story, you're reliving it. And that can be emotionally exhausting. And think about what you want to share. You don't have to share everything. You can say, I don't have all the answers yet. And you can share more with some people and less with others. And there may also be people who you choose not to tell at all. And that is okay too. This is when you need to follow what is okay for you. Then the other thing, think ahead of the questions people will ask. People will ask, and the questions will shoot. You probably don't have the answers yourself. They will ask about treatment, prognosis, what's next. And you get to decide. Only answer what you're comfortable answering, because you don't know anyone, every detail. And it's also good to let people know what you need, the support, either as help or space, because people often want to help, but they don't know how to. So be ready to receive help and ask for help. And there's this one that I want to prepare you for, because sometimes it can come as a shock. Be prepared for mixed reactions. Some people will show up immediately with love, and others may withdraw. Others may not know what to say, or others may make it about themselves. And I want you to hear this clearly. It is not a reflection of you. It is them. And this is your story. No one else is walking in your shoes. Not even me, even though I've walked through something similar. And there's one thing I want to share that I've heard from so many moms who've gone through breast cancer, that the people you thought would show up, they might walk away. And the people you never expected, they will show up in the most beautiful way. And I want you to trust this. I want you to hold this. Know that God will bring the right people at the right time. And if someone doesn't show up, it's simply not their season to be in your life. God is just removing them. Let them be. So I have a few practical things that helped us as well. And as soon as we told family, we created a WhatsApp group. So they're back in Kenya and we're back here. We are here in Australia. And that became our update space, where we shared everything for the medical updates, photos, prayer requests, just progress. And on the days I wasn't strong enough, my husband and my sister-in-law would update everyone. And this made such a difference, because I didn't have to repeat my story over and over again, or even if I didn't feel like picking that phone, or if I was too weak, there was an update. There was some updates, there were prayers. It brought us together. We had a common space. And when I was strong enough, I'd share my photos. So that really helped us. So create a space like that, if that would work for you. Another thing that helped, we had my sister-in-law who became our contact person, who was our one contact person. She knew everything that was happening. She knew my appointments. She knew how I was feeling. She knew how the kids were. She knew the kids' appointments. She knew everything. And she kept everyone else informed. So from family to friends to extended family. And that protected me a lot, because I did not have the emotional capacity. I did not have the physical capacity to deal with anyone or to manage anyone. So that was huge. So if you can think of anyone that would fit in that space, please do. And this is a big one, when it comes to your kids. This was huge, because you're not just thinking about yourself anymore. You're a mom. The first thing you think about is them. And I'll be honest with you, this is something I struggled with deeply, being honest and protecting my kids. And if I'm honest, protecting my kids always came first, because sometimes it felt like the right decision. And maybe sometimes it wasn't. But what I want you to know is that this journey doesn't come with a manual. There's no perfect way to do this. And God will give you the grace. God gives us the grace to meet ourselves where we are. Because this journey is purely a journey of grace. And so I want you to think about when you're telling your loved ones and your friends. Have a think about the impact on your children first before you share with your friends and loved ones. Because conversations travel, friends talk, children ask questions, and you might need to ask yourself, are my kids ready for other kids to know? And in our case, my kids weren't ready for their friends to know immediately, because that's how they process things. They process things internally. And they didn't want to be crowded by, other kids asking them. So we respected that. But we also let them know that we needed to tell a teacher, and we allowed them to choose who that teacher would be, so that, they had someone looking out for them at school, because that mattered. And that mattered because they were given the choice to decide who. And support doesn't always look big. Sometimes it's just knowing that someone sees your child and they are looking after them. They don't have to talk to them, but it's that knowing that I know someone's looking after my child when I'm going through this. That helped a lot. So if this is you and you're at this point where you've got to tell your loved ones and you need help finding the words, please don't do this alone. There are many places, you can get help. Even in Australia, you can call Cancer Council on 131120. For me, they were an incredible support for me. You can also speak to a hospital social worker or even someone who's walked through this journey, because just having someone help you find the words, it makes all the difference. And finally, I just want to leave you with this. Telling your loved ones about your breast cancer diagnosis is a deeply personal decision. You are allowed to take your time. You are allowed to take your time until you're ready, until you know what you're dealing with. You're allowed to shut it in, or you're allowed to let it out. It is your decision. In my case, it took a full month before we told our kids and family. And while I was in that waiting bay, in that space, when you're sitting with something so heavy, you still have to look after your children. You still have to call your mom, your sister, and have these phone calls every day, and you're sitting with this really heavy news. And, still act normal. I reflected a lot. I thought about the words I'd spoken to others, especially in that season where we had a few friends who'd lost their loved ones. I'd said, God will give you strength. God will not give you more than you can handle. God is close to the brokenhearted. And suddenly, those words were for me. And it made me realize something, that God had been preparing me all along, long before I even knew I would need it. And in that space, while we were in that space, my husband and I prayed. We prayed that God will bring the right people, the right team, and the right support. And I want you to believe the same, that even now you're not alone, that the right people will come, the right support will come, the right help will come. And until then, you don't have to carry this alone, because I'm right here in this seat next to you as your big sister in this journey. So take your time, protect your heart, and when you're ready, you will find the words. There's always a seat here for you, right next to me. I hope this episode held you in some small way today. And if it did, please share with a friend who needs to hear this, or maybe needs a soft place to land. And if you feel ready, please leave a written review for the podcast. I'd truly love to hear from you and to know that this show is supporting you in your journey. This space, it's not just mine, it is ours. So now go take a breath, maybe reheat that tea one more time, and I'll meet you back here for the next episode. Ciao.